Hello and welcome to episode 10. In this series we've been discussing the R complex, people who are trapped in the reptilian part of the brain that is called the R complex, narcissists, psychopaths, those who manifest in this world as slave masters who want to dominate us, and the narcotic archetype. In this episode we're going to be looking at ways that we can protect ourselves and ways that we can heal and cure the disease that being bitten by these vampires leaves us with. Let's first talk about self-protection. In the field of recovery from PTSD, of being in an abusive relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, we have a concept that is called no contact. Where does this come from? It comes from the notion in psychology that any and all contact with the narcissistic psychopath is an opportunity for them to abuse you. They abuse language, they abuse words, they're constantly seeking to provoke, they're constantly seeking to evoke reactions in people in order to get them to submit, in order to get them to feel emotions that make them feel guilty, that make them feel worthless, that make them feel ashamed, so that they won't say no, so that they won't stand up for themselves. So in order to allow the person to heal, we have to give them space from the disease. We have to keep them away from the virus. This is called no contact. That's at the micro level and between two people. At the macro level, between a government, between a deep state, between people who are really trying to dominate your mind, your perception, your consciousness, and a whole nation of people, we have to start thinking in terms of no contact. We have to start thinking that any and all communication that comes from the top down to me is probably laced with some kind of a poison to evoke bad feelings in me, of guilt, of shame, of worthlessness, in order to get me to submit.
I can announce that as of Monday the 15th of June, face coverings will become mandatory on public transport. That doesn't mean surgical masks, which we must keep for clinical settings. It means the kind of face covering you can easily make at home.
And to obey, to alter my behavior to be that which they would want. Now, it's simply not practical to have no contact with any and all communication with this level of culture, because you live in the world. If you want to go to the shops, you're being hit with marketing all the time. What I would advocate for very, very strongly is to reduce your contact with this communication. If you're listening to the radio and the song goes off, switch off the adverts, switch off the news. If you're watching your favorite TV show and the adverts come on, turn it down and turn away from the TV. Never passively consume messages that you did not consent to and that you did not select. When you're in a passive mental state and you're switched off, that's when you're most susceptible to suggestion. Hypnosis teaches us that. Post-hypnotic commands work better when the subject is in a relaxed state. Well, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of yourself watching TV or looking into your phone, but you probably look something like this. The eyes go wide, the jaw slackens, the tongue goes to the roof of the mouth. As you zone out and offer your focus, you offer the blood sacrifice of your time and your attention to this new evil God that's staring at you even as you stare back into it. It's dangerous because you're very susceptible to suggestion at that point. You think, oh, I don't agree with that. That information's not for me. That advert's not for me. That governmental message is not for me. That particular piece of ideological doctrine isn't for me. It didn't go in. Your unconscious is absorbing all of that, and it's affecting your behavior and your moods and your emotions in ways that you have no control over. Never mind the message. Never mind the visuals. If you've got time and you're inclined, look into what the sounds are doing to you. Just the sounds, just the music they use, just the sound effects they use. Look at that. And look at the levels of stress and adrenaline and cortisol that can be inspired in a person just by playing with the sounds that you're being hit with when you consume mass media produced stuff. Whether it's entertainment or news or advertising or marketing or government messages, whatever it is, when you're consuming it, you're being brainwashed by them. You are the receptacle, the passive receptacle for their toxic messaging, for their toxic ideology. So minimize contact with that stuff. If you didn't choose it and you're not consciously awake going, I'm choosing to listen to this podcast now because I'm consciously choosing to listen to this person on this platform right now because, switch it off. If you didn't choose it, switch it off. If you chose it and you want it, listen, but be conscious. Don't do 1,000 things and text at the same time. They want us with ADHD. They want us with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It makes us easier to control and it makes us dumber because we can't concentrate as long. We can't concentrate for the length of period of time that would require a nuanced understanding of a complex subject. Minimize contact in exactly the same way you would with a person. Minimize contact. A little tip: if it is a narcissistic psychopath and it's at the micro level and there is actually physically there somebody in your life who is giving you trouble, practice, if you can't go fully no contact, which is the preferred option, but sometimes this is not practical because you work with them or they're in your family or whatever it is, use the grey rock technique. The grey rock technique means that you make yourself dull to them. You are as dull and as everyday as a grey rock. If they seek to provoke you, if they pinch you, poke you, stab you, trying to get you to say ow or get off me or show fear, be dull in your response. Be very dull. They feed from reactions. They need a reaction from you in order, it's like oxygen for them. And if you don't give them drama, if you don't give them the oxygen of emotion, drama, upset, fear, or attention, they have to find somebody else. It's a weakness. They exploit the weaknesses in our personalities, so we should learn theirs so we can exploit their weaknesses. They can't breathe without drama, they can't breathe without your reaction, and they can't stand to not be getting anything from you. So if you can find a way to emotionally and psychologically detach, there are many free courses out there in mindfulness, in present moment centeredness, in meditation that you can use that would help you with this. Detach from what is being said, detach from what is being done, even detach from your own perceptions of what is being said and what is being done, even detach from the emotions that come from the perceptions of what is being said and what is being done, and you start to go into a witnessing, present-centered, in the body mode. You can pull away from them, and then you can start to practice grey rock, and you can make yourself dull, and they will drift away and find another victim. They have to. They can't stand not being fed the oxygen of your response. As above, so below. Similarly, when we're talking at the cultural level, at the governmental level, whatever they're trying to indoctrinate you with, it behooves you to learn to detach, to be mindful, to be present, to distinguish between their thoughts and your thoughts, their messages and your messages, so you can say, that's not mine. I see it. I see it. I see it coming a mile off. I see that message for exactly what it is. No, thank you. That's bait.
Young adults may often have mild or even no symptoms. They won't even know they're sick. They won't have any idea that they have a virus. They won't have any idea at all. America's youth will act responsibly, and we're asking everybody that when you are not able to socially distance, wear a mask, get a mask. Whether you like the mask or not, they have an impact, they'll have an effect, and we need everything we can get.
What you're being hit with is not an authentic communication, it is bait, and you can refuse that bait. What you're being hit with is not a communication, it's a signal, it's a symbol. And the signal and the symbol is simply saying to you, submit. Don't think, emote. Don't think, react. Don't think, just do as we say and everything will be okay. So mindfulness, meditation, coming back to the body, away from the fantasy, the advertising, the future pacing, the reminders of a painful past, it's all provocation. It's all there to evoke an emotional storm inside of you, which is exhausting. It's exhausting if you can't say no to the communication and you can't set a boundary internally. So let's look at another thing that we can do to protect ourselves and to heal from that which has already been done. We need to learn to draw boundaries. We need to learn to say no. You're going to have to learn to say no to communication that's coming into you. You have to recognize a hidden command. You have to be able to say, that's a hidden command that's coming to me. It's not a suggestion. I'm actually being told to do something. I'm not being asked to do it. I'm being told to do it. And you've got to be able to say no. You don't have to get upset and angry every time you say no. You can say no and smile. You can say no and just go, no, I'm actually not doing that. I would prefer not to. No, thank you. I'd prefer not to. But thank you for asking me. You can learn to say no to other people. You can learn to say no to other external injunctions coming in. It's also very, very powerful and very necessary for us as we move from humanity's infancy, adolescence, into humanity's boundaried, strong adulthood, that we learn to say no to ourselves. We have to cultivate self-discipline. We have to cultivate restraint. Of course, you want to gamble, you want to drink, you want to watch porn, you want to take drugs, you want to do that which is most immediately pleasurable and gives you a payoff. But don't. Not all the time. Restrain yourself. Be restrained. Seek to ascend. Seek the higher path. Find a way of going higher rather than having your energy drawn lower, because that's how they suck it out of you. That's how they draw your energy out of you. And you only have so much. You're only finite. You only have so much concentration. You only have so many hours in the day. If you're feeding your time and attention and you're paying with this highly valuable currency that is your time and your conscious awareness to these things, you're weakening yourself and you're paying that thing. You're strengthening that thing. So be aware of that. Learn to say no to yourself. As we're moving forward and we do seek to heal, whether it was from narcissistic psychopathic abuse at the micro level or the bigger level, we have to not just say no to other people, not just say no to ourselves, we have to start taking control of our lives. You can no longer afford, as a free, responsible, conscious individual, to allow other people to make choices for you. That's not on the table anymore. You need to be in control of your own life. That means where there is any kind of manipulation, any narcissistic or psychopathic behaviors that are coming your way, you have to cut them off now. You should be in charge of your life. You should be owning your own personal sovereignty. You should be the agent of change in your life. And you must learn now to engage daily in a discipline of self-interested action. That means that you do what is best for you for your own highest good. So you now need to act in your life like a parent who's responsible for a child. You're the child. You need to be the adult in your life and in your space. You need to be the person saying, I'm not doing that anymore. You need to be the one saying, this is a good path to follow, this is a bad path to follow. This is not an easy discipline to get to, but if you can start to just begin working into it, your life and your mental health, your emotional health will improve dramatically very, very quickly. If we're passive and we don't do that, if you're not the one saying, I will do this, I won't do that, this is what I want next, these are my goals for today, for this week, for this year, this is where I'm moving, this is my intention, I'm in charge, I'm decisive, my intention muscles are strong, they atrophy. Intention muscles atrophy, the decision muscles atrophy, and you get weaker and weaker and you get locked in the indecision cycle. And then other people can come along quietly and whisper to you, do you want to do this? You're not doing anything. You don't know what you want. You don't know what's right or wrong. Why don't you do this? That could be on an individual level. That could be an abusive person inviting you to get into a relationship with them where they can exploit you for your time, your sex, your money, shelter, whatever it is. Or just adulation. Or it could be at a broader level. It could be a corporation seeking to sell you something. And they're telling you that's the solution to the problem. Oh, you feel anxious? Well, take these drugs for your anxiety. Where I would say, no, wait. You feel anxious for a reason. You feel anxious because your unconscious is smart. And your unconscious is trying to keep you safe. And your unconscious is observing you in your life and going, this person is addicted. They're floating along, they're damaged, they're traumatized, they're making no decisions for themselves whatsoever. We as an individual, the unconscious and the conscious and the ego and the superego, we're not going in a good direction. So what should happen? Let's send an alarm signal from the body to the mind that something is wrong. We're heading towards an iceberg and we need to change course. What would that alarm look like? Well, alarms are annoying, they're repetitive, and they're stupid, and they're loud. And they need to be annoying, repetitive, stupid, and loud to get your attention and to force you to change. True or false? I think you'd agree that that's true. That's what anxiety is. It's an alarm. It goes, do something, do something, do something, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? What is the somatic feeling of anxiety? It's the feeling that you need to run. It's the feeling you need to be doing something. It's the feeling that something awful is going to happen if I don't know what to do, and I don't know what the awful thing is. Relax. Trust your body. Trust your mind. Don't reach for alcohol. Don't reach for the anti-anxiety pill. Just say to the body, okay, this is a mammalian response to threat. What is the threat? What am I not happy with right now? Where do I think my life is going? What do I think I'm doing right? What do I think I'm doing wrong? Where would I like to go? What kind of a life would I like to live? Many people haven't thought about that. They've not written down what they think a good way to live a life is. They've never gotten in touch with their core values. They don't know whether they value freedom or creativity or prosperity or individuality or whatever it is. Whatever your values are, you need to be in contact with them. You need to know what your value system is. You need a morality so that you can be shielded from negative influences in your life. You need a disciplined philosophy as a craft to guide you through the storms and the tides and the streams and the waterfalls of this life. Without that, you're just flopping around, bouncing off rocks, getting smashed, tumbling into dangerous situations that you totally could have avoided, only to get pounded at the bottom. And you're there with everybody else who's also getting pounded, and you're going, well, I guess this was just going to happen because every other stupid member of my tribe is getting the same thing happen to them. No, it was not necessary. You didn't need to fall that far. You didn't need to fall that hard. A lot of it, most of it, is avoidable. But we have to wake up. We have to be smart, and we have to take decisive action when we see these things coming. There's one final thing I'm going to advise you to do. It's not a very popular piece of advice, but it will help you immeasurably. Your emotions are provoked, so you probably are, especially if you've been the target of narcissistic and psychopathic abuse, emotionally dysregulated. If you're very, very brainwashed by culture, or you know people who are very, very brainwashed by culture, then most people watching this wouldn't be particularly brainwashed by culture by definition. You're self-selected not to be. You're self-selected to be of what I would consider to be a higher consciousness than that. But it's still there for all of us, myself included, and we have to fight with it. We have to get it out. You're going to be emotionally dysregulated, and you're going to have a lot of your emotions provoked. But just because you or somebody else is emotionally dysregulated, and just because you're cycling through emotions, does not mean you're emotionally literate. Most people who are traumatized, and most human beings on this planet are traumatized to some degree, are actually emotionally very, very illiterate. We're trained to be anti-emotion. Why? Because our society is run by narcotic types, and they don't experience human emotion, so they're not interested in human emotion. So the training that comes from the top of the pyramid down is fear your emotions, avoid your emotions, suppress and repress your emotions. But verily I say unto you, you can no more successfully repress an emotion than you can successfully repress your hand or your foot or your leg. That emotion is you. You don't have anxiety. That anxiety is a part of the ecosystem, the beautiful, intricate, sophisticated, intelligent, survival-based, joy-based ecosystem that you are. That anxiety is part of it. So is that depression. It's not a virus. It's not a sickness. It's not some bad thing to be cut off with drugs or alcohol. Accept it. It's intelligence. It's animal, mammalian intelligence, and it wants to help you. It has positive intent, so listen to it. When we drink the Kool-Aid and we believe that emotions are bad, we shun them and we become numb to them. But your emotions are a guide to your higher self, all of your intuition, and all of your emotional intelligence, which you need in order to navigate your way through the storms and the turbulence of life. You need highly attuned animal instinct to know what is right to do, to know what is appropriate in situations. To be able to manifest your will and intent in the world, you must be emotionally intelligent. You cannot be emotionally intelligent if you're numb. You cannot be emotionally intelligent if you are emotionally illiterate. So get in contact with your emotions and learn to describe with nuance what it is you feel about a situation or a subject or an experience. Don't just say, well, that pisses me off. That doesn't describe anything and it doesn't tell you any useful information. If you become nuanced and you say, okay, well, I said that pisses me off. What did I really mean? And if you struggle with this, just look up on the internet a list of emotions. What do I really feel? Actually, I'm frightened. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm irritated. There's an impatient feeling there. And I'm sad. Okay, that tells me something. Those 5 more nuanced expressions of what my emotion is gives me way more information about where I'm up to and what I'm responding to than just going, I'm fucking pissed off. That doesn't communicate anything. So when you're communicating with yourself, this exercise is primarily for communication with the self. If you can get more in contact with what you're feeling in any scenario or situation, if you walk into a building, you walk into a meeting, you're speaking to a person, you don't feel good, don't push it down and be like, oh, I've got to be polite. I've got to stay polite. Being polite is the most important thing. It isn't. You staying healthy is the most important thing. You maintaining your boundaries and your personal sovereignty is the most important thing. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Value your emotions to a nuanced degree. What are some things that I know I'm feeling right now in this very moment? How am I feeling about this person, this situation, this building, this scenario, this meeting? Okay, there's the problem. There's the problem. Something is up here. The animal inside of me, the intelligent, evolved mammalian instinct to survive has woken up and it says, hey, something's up here. Something's up here, kid. You need to look at it and do something about it. You push him down, you tell him to shut up, you tell the wise old wolf to shut up, he will. Eventually he will shut up. And then you'll be showing up to somebody saying, oh, my sex drive has disappeared, I'm impotent, I'm miserable, I'm depressed, I'm joyless. Where you tell the inner animal, you tell the instinct inside of you, the emotions inside of you, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Eventually they will. And then you don't function, the system starts to break down. So trust the emotion. What is it telling you? And if you feel bad in a situation, a building, a meeting, a bar, a restaurant, or with a person, leave. Find a way to politely leave. You have that right. You have the right to say no. This doesn't make me feel good. This news episode doesn't make me feel good. Switch it off.
I'd say is that on face masks we are guided by the science, and the government position hasn't changed. Professor McLean will explain the science. The government position, the UK government position, hasn't changed. Not least because the most important thing people can do is the social distancing.
This radio station doesn't make... Switch it off. This advertising is agitating me. Switch it off. This person irritates me or agitates me. Get away from them. If you can't completely get away from them, minimize contact with them. And as you're minimizing contact with them, stop talking to them. Stop looking at them. If you have to talk to them and you have to look at them less. Less. I could have looked at them for 15 seconds. Are you saying I should look at them for 3? Yes. You have to send them a text. Maybe it's an ex and you're discussing custody of your children or visitations or whatever it is. If you have a choice between sending 3 essay-long texts and sending a 5-word response, send the 5-word response. Diminish your time, attention, and energy that you're offering the bad thing that you don't want to offer it. Just diminish it. Take your life back. Reclaim your consciousness, reclaim your time, your attention, and have the intention strong inside of you where you want to go and what you want to spend your time and your attention on. Your time and your attention. You're a being of consciousness. It's literally your life's energy. You'll never get it back. It's the most precious thing that's been given to you. Do not throw it away. Ladies and gentlemen, that is now the end of the series. Thank you for coming along with me on this journey. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. They truly are the most precious resources you have in this life. I would say, as with anything in these times, it's a good idea to stay grateful. The more grateful you are, the more protected you will be as we move forward through this turbulent period. Thank you again for your time and your attention, and I look forward very much to speaking to you all again soon. Thank you.
Don't go off the path, going in a circle, lost, no going back. Lost and we're not going back.
I'm sort of at the moment, I'm living very much day to day, seeing what unfolds, seeing in between what the government's going to say to us next, from Boris with his daily public announcements, and then how people respond to it, and everything that goes in between. People are drawing information from the government, from mainstream media, from social media. They're taking it from politicians, from doctors, and from friends. So there's this big information cloud that everybody has to sift through. It's confusing, and I think it's confusing and disruptive and bewildering by design. The more people are bewildered, the more confused they are, the more submissive they will become in their psychological outlook, and the more they'll look for some big authority figure to tell them what's going on.